All right. Um, for our group, we chose the topic of dyscalculia. It's a learning disability of mathematics. My name is Emily Tyrell,
Hi, my name is Moushumi Chakraborty.
Hi, my name is Zion Mark.
and let's go ahead and get into it. So first, starting off with the definition of what is dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is a learning disorder that affects a person's ability to understand number-based information and math. People who have dyscalculia struggle with numbers and math because their brains don't process math-related concepts like the brains of people without this disorder. However, their struggles don't mean that they're less intelligent or less capable than people who don't have dyscalculia. Approximately 4 to 7% of the total student population globally are impacted by this disability. Scientists estimate that neurological differences, working memory deficits, and prenatal factors are root causes for this disability.
There are three major laws that we can associate it with dyscalculia. The first one is IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is a federal law that guarantees free appropriate public education for students with disabilities. This law classifies dyscalculia as specific learning disability. The second one is Section 504 that prohibits discrimination for any type of disabilities at any institution that receives federal assistance. A student with dyscalculia is entitled to equal access to learning. The final one is ADA, Americans with Disability Act, that protects students with dyscalculia from discrimination in public spaces, especially schools and colleges. This is important for students with disabilities in college and adult education.
So, students with dyscalculia sometimes require extra support, whether that's academically, physically, emotionally, or socially. So, here are three little facets that we can talk about. So, for physically, we can provide visual supports like charts, tables, and number lines, written step-by-step instructions. We can reduce visual clutter on worksheets. We can include multi-sensory instruction, as well as provide assistive technology like calculators, math apps, or flashcards. Socially, students with dyscalculia often compare themselves to their peers or may feel anxious when called upon. Techniques that we as educators can use to help are providing group work with specific roles, have private correction of math problems, and just build a safe classroom environment. Emotionally, students who have dyscalculia can experience a variety of emotions when facing difficult math problems and topics. Math anxiety, low self-esteem, shame, and even guilt are all common emotional reactions. Some supportive techniques are validation, having a growth mindset, safe opportunities to make mistakes, and providing frequent reassurance.
There are three ways to educator can address educational needs for the students with dyscalculia. First one, assistive technologies. To represent an abstract concept like numbers to hands-on, use manipulatives like blocks, Cuisinart rods, 10 frames, and counters. Use games like Gaffogame, maths, or number race to improve number comparison. Use various adaptive softwares in the classroom to promote visual representation. Those softwares also increase practice time and reduce the dependency on teachers. The second option is to use explicit instruction. To reduce working memory, use explicit and systemic instruction. Model it, I do, try together, we do, independent practice, you do, and repeat. Focus on important skills of a task, provide reference charts, reading directions, etc. to deal a concept clearly. Use concise instruction, stick to the script, and constantly seek feedback from the students. Finally, scaffolding. Making sure that educators make explicit connection with students to secure understanding of concepts. One-on-one tutoring may be needed, extra time must be given for tests and allow for more practice. Students may face anxiety and frustration during the learning of math concepts. Teachers must assist during these social challenges. Three ways to promote inclusion in the classroom are collaboration, accommodation, involving parents. In general studies classroom, general studies teachers not only delivers regular instructions but also collaborates closely with the special education teacher who provide extra help for students with dyscalculia. Use different accommodation techniques, for example, explicit techniques procedures, repeat direction, provide graphic organizers, establish daily routines, providing copy of notes and display key points on a screen, etc. And finally, communicate with parents and keep parents informed about the strengths and weaknesses of the students in a regular frequency. Provide parents with materials how they can help students at home to that they participate in general class better.
These are some community resources that we were able to find local to Arizona that can be beneficial to families and students who struggle with this particular mathematical learning disability. The first resource is called Encircle Families. Encircle Families is a parent-led website that provides information, resources, and supports for families who have children who qualify for special education services. The next resource is called AZ Find, also known as Child Find. Child Find is a resource that provides information for those individuals and families who are navigating the education of an exceptional child about evaluations for the student as well as the process after evaluation. The next and last one is the International Dyslexia Association, the Arizona branch. IDA Arizona Branch is a nonprofit organization that creates a supportive community for dyslexic learners, their families, and educators to learn, access resources, and share the experiences. Next, I'm going to talk about some strategy resources. The first being Understood. Understood is a leading nonprofit organization that provides free resources for students with learning challenges. They have a specialized section with dyscalculia resources. The next is the LDA, or the Learning Disabilities Association of America. The Learning Disabilities Association of America is a volunteer organization that provides tools, resources, fact sheets, and best practices free for students with learning disabilities, educators, and the families. They also have a dedicated section with dyscalculia resources. The last strategy resource is the Child Mind Institute. The Child Mind Institute is another nonprofit organization that shares helpful tips about public school education and community-based education for students with dyscalculia. Now we have a media link that you can watch.
Dyscalculia is a term used to describe a range of difficulties with learning math. This can mean struggling to understand numbers and what they mean, as well as how to solve math problems. There are symptoms that that can indicate whether someone is affected by dyscalculia. For example, F2 children may have difficulty learning to count, recognizing printed numbers, remembering numbers, or being able to organize them in a logical order. Children in years 3 to 6 might have difficulty learning math facts, for example, adding, subtracting, dividing, or multiplying, and also struggle developing maths problem-solving skills, measuring things, and remembering maths vocabulary terms. Older children and adults might struggle with things like budgeting, estimating costs, for example, in the supermarket, doing mental arithmetic, and finding different approaches to solving problems. If you'd like to learn more about this, Twinkle has a Barriers to Learning Information on Dyscalculia booklet. You can download it from the website, but I'm going to leave a link to it in the description below. Now let's take a look at some strategies to help children with dyscalculia in your classroom. Strategy 1 is to use concrete apparatus. Counters, blocks, strings of beads, dominoes, playing cards, dice, clock faces, fraction segments. These kinds of materials are physical. They can be moved around, manipulated, grouped together, and used in all kinds of activities to help children understand maths concepts. Taking this approach instead of just relying on verbal or written instruction can help children with dyscalculia better visualize and understand maths concepts by interacting with them in a hands-on way. 2. Differentiate instruction as required. It may take children with dyscalculia a little bit more time to do their work, but instead of rushing them, give them the space and the time to work it out, and encourage them to focus on one thing at a time before moving on. During examinations, it's sometimes possible for children to get extra time when they need it, so this could be something worth looking into as well. Also, if you're not focusing on mental maths in an activity, let children use a calculator, and also make sure they know how to use the calculator. 3. Visual aids. For example, charts that show math facts or the timetables can be really helpful, as well as drawing out diagrams. Having a display like a word wall can also help by exposing children to key terms and vocabulary that they need to use during math. By being frequently exposed to these words, it may make it more likely for them to stick. 4. Encouragement. Having dyscalculia can be frustrating, so making the time to celebrate progress and achievements can really mean a lot to motivating learners. You can also take the time to work with children one-on-one and monitor progress. Reaching out to other adults who are also involved in a child's learning and helping them better understand the difficulties presented by dyscalculia and the tools that can help is also a nice way to ensure consistency and understanding. If these tips have been useful, you may be interested in checking out more of our dyscalculia resources on the Twinkle website, so I'm going to leave some helpful links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Wonderful. Now let's check for understanding with some comprehension questions. So first off, how is dyscalculia different from simply struggling in math? 2, why is dyscalculia not related to intelligence? 3, what classroom accommodations support physical learning needs? 4, how can teachers reduce cognitive overload? 5, what are the signs of math anxiety? And 6, how might dyscalculia impact everyday life outside of school? And with that, that concludes our presentation. Here are all the references that we used to back up all of our information. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.